That brings us to knife sparring. Before I get into the technical part of it, I want to explain why we do knife sparring, what are the advantages and what are the liabilities of knife sparring. You must include knife sparring in your knife tactical training. If you do not spar with knives, you're never going to understand the dynamics of timing. You're never going to understand the dynamics of entries. You're never going to understand the relationship between you and an opponent, and it is something you're going to have to do within your techniques and in your training. So it is a necessity for you to develop the timing issue. However, the liability of sparring is you're not sparring with real knives, and in a certain sense, you are building a wrong sense of confidence because you're actually not getting cut or you're not getting basically terminated. So you're going to have to fine-tune your knife sparring that it still stay realistic, but you still get the training. That is done in the Agana system with the time limit on the knife sparring and also the training knives that we use. The time limit in knife sparring in Agana is 30 seconds. I always say with knife attacks, it's one encounter, one chance. You're not going to get a second chance with a knife situation. In other words, if your engagement was bad, you got cut, engagement is over. So it's 30 seconds only versus a 2-minute sparring or 3-minute sparring round if you're doing boxing, kickboxing, or any other style of sparring. So it's a very short amount of time that is also used so the adrenaline is pumping, all right? And then we have all kinds of little drills that we do within the sparring so we pick up the stress that's coming in. Using knife sparring knives in the system will help you also on a marking level. In our system, we use 2 types of training knives for the knife sparring. The first one being a military rubber training knife. This is a knife that's flexible. This is used at the first level of knife sparring because it's a forgiving knife. In other words, when it hits you, it is flexible and it doesn't hurt that much. If you look at the edge of the knife, I have a possibility to put either chalk or either lipstick so it be used later on for marking so you have a monitor or how you're doing on your knife sparring. So this is the first one, the first level. Later on, you'll be introduced to a hard knife that has a marker. When you spar with this knife, it is less forgiving. In other words, when you start nipping in the hands, it's going to hurt. This illustrates more of a reality without getting cut because it's actually hurting you, and when they're going to nip you, you're going to pull your hand just out of the instinct of the pain. So this is the first level, again, flexible, it'll give. This is the second level of knife sparring, it is less forgiving. Both of them have edges that you can mark them so you will have a monitor of how you're doing in your knife sparring. Okay, according to those knives, you're going to have the training knives and you have to understand knife sparring. It is not a sport. There's not a 1-0, 1-1. It has nothing to do with scoring. What you are building in your knife sparring is an instinctive skill to be able to go in and out engagements, to be able to read. When he comes for an attack, you're going to have to learn to read what's coming in as it comes in. If you can't read, you can't deal with it. In other words, right now when you spar with a knife, you're going to be a little bit stressed out because it's dynamic. Just think about when the guy has a real knife in his hand and he's coming with the real intention to hurt you. Therefore, the knife sparring will kind of like duplicate that or will make you, give you a feeling. But remember, at the end of the sparring session, it did not cut you. So there is a plus to it and there's a minus to it. And you're going to have a good trainer to teach you how to insert stress drills into the knife sparring so it still stays realistic even though we don't have real knives. All right, I'm facing Carlos, Carlos is facing me. Now before we get into the actual techniques, I want to remind you of primarily targets. My primary target is going to be to nip his hand. Any cut or any nip I do on his hand is basically either disarming him or either collapsing him into he's going to need to pull his hand and then I get a freebie. So you're going to see that my main target to begin with will be the hand. Secondary target will be take out the mobility. In other words, the tendon on this side or the tendon on this side. And then I will have the shoulder. We use the shoulder in Agana as a target simulating the neck. If I get him across the shoulder, it would have been just like I cut him across the neck. If I poke him straight in, it would have been just like I got a stab in the neck. We stay away from the face because I don't like to program my practitioners to have too much gear on. Every time we train you, we want to bring you as much as possible to the reality. In other words, if you start having a helmet, headgear, then your confidence will be false in the sense of you're not going to care that that knife is going to poke the helmet. So our target as a training device is the shoulder, but it's still going to have the instinctive defensive movement behind it. All right. When you knife spar, it is important that you understand the quality of your entry. In other words, your entry is very important. If your entry is sluggish and slow, you're basically getting in the line of fire of his knife. You got to be very careful. A lot of people, beginners that start knife sparring, they get too excited and they start just slashing each other all over the place. In reality, after one good slash, you're incapacitated. So that's not reality. It's in and out. One engagement, one chance. So I don't want you to get in the habit of like, oh yeah, this is great. I love knife sparring. Let's do it all night long. No, you want to get in and out. Every engagement, in and out. All right, for instance. Right, there's a nip, he got disarmed. Right there, mobility, right there in the neck. Okay, you're going to have to learn to be sneaky. In other words, don't always, fighting stance, sometimes I'll fake down here and I'll go up. Always try first here. Now, I know Carlos knows me, he's been my student for 13 years. In the street, you do not know how good he is. In other words, you don't know how fast he is. You don't know if he's got good entry. You don't know if he's got any training to begin with. You always want to take out his knife first. Now sometimes you're going to go here and every time you try to get that hand, he pulls it out, then you know, okay, that's a trained person. Because most people that are not trained will leave that hand there or will actually get too busy to come in and then they basically give it to me. But if I have a person that every time I come in he retracts, that's a sign of a trained person. Then you're going to have to switch to mobility. Try to take out his mobility. Okay? Only when I played with the disarm and the mobility, I start climbing up here. I have no business coming straight here with ignoring this. I'm going to have to break him down. I break him down by either disarm him or by either take out his mobility. Then I'm going upstairs. I got Carlos in front of me. It is very important for you to realize and remember, you need to stay composed, calm, and patient. Don't start jilting yourself into the knife. He's got a knife. Do not ignore that fact, okay? There's a lot of people that get into knife sparring and they get too excited and they just go in just for the sake of going in. I'd rather wait a couple more seconds and read what he's got. Usually, while you look at your opponent, you're going to see if he's trained, you're going to see if he knows what he's doing, and if anything, you're going to be able to detect anything that's coming in much better. With that in mind, I'm going to use a rotation. Okay, rotation means instead of me always coming in straight, slash and stab, even if let's say I got a good pyramid technique, I'm nice and tight, my footwork is good, my engagement confidence is good, if I always go in that way, it's my skill against his skills. In other words, if he is as trained as me and as good as me, he can angle up and then it develops from there. A lot of times I'll use a rotation to be a thief. I'm going to steal a half beat. Okay, what that means is every time I turn, Carlos is going to be forced to rotate, to align his knife to be in line with his attack. In other words, when I turn, he rotates. In that time that he rotates, there is a half-beat timing behind me. In other words, I am the one who dictated when he get to move. I can basically now engage. What the rotation will do is it will give me an engagement advantage. In other words, I departed first before he departed. In other words, I rotate him as he rotates, slack. I got him right there, disarmed him, and then I got a freebie on the entry. It is important that you remember that the patience in the knife sparring is very important. A lot of people get into knife sparring, and because it's a plastic knife, they are going into la-la mode. They're in la-la land. Oh, we're going to do this all day long. That's great. Remember, in reality, it's a real blade, and you'll have one chance, one engagement. In other words, you're not going to have a second chance. And it's important that you learn to be patient, and if you're not sure, start rotating your opponent so you got a half-beat advantage on the timing. If I'm in front of Carlos and both of us are basically, I'm rotating, he moves, and I see that he's being cautious, this is a trained individual. This is when you can start elementing, putting the environment to your advantage. Okay, what I mean by that is, maybe I want to projectile something at him. Okay, in Israel, it's usually, I spit at him. Most people, you spit at them, they either move or they go like this, and then you get a complete freebie. In other words, I'm using the environment to help me out. Not only rotating, maybe if I see that there's something behind him, a wall or something, I start putting the pressure on him, and then he, for a second, get shock circuit by bumping into what's behind him. You need to learn to use the environment to your advantage. Not only your weapon, okay? You basically are the individual that's fighting him, you got a weapon, but the environment will play a role here as well. Okay, that will also bring up multiple attackers issues and this and that, which I'm not getting right now into it. That will be in the advanced tape. But you have to learn to use environment to your advantage. Maybe you know you got, I'm trying to get connected and it's not good. I know I got some change in my pocket to change Israel, and then I can connect. Maybe there's a chair in the way and I bump the chair into him. Use whatever it takes for you to survive. There is no rules. The only rule is that at the end of the engagement, you're going home and he's not. Now let's address the issues of advanced tactics. After you have mastered the footwork, the techniques, the principles, you've been introduced to sparring and you develop that, you can move on to advanced tactics. We're going to introduce you to 3 advanced tactics. Number 1 will be the reverse grip style of fighting. Number 2 will be double knife. I got 2 knives against my opponent. And finally, we're going to address the issue of multiple attackers within a knife fight. Reverse grip is a very sneaky and very advanced style of knife fighting. It has a better technique and better tactic in the sense of you're going to completely absorb your opponent and slice him open. In other words, it is a fox style of fighting with a knife versus a fencing style. When you're in regular grip, you're basically fencing. When you're in reverse grip, you're saying, come on in. Come on in my house, I'm going to show you around. That's what a reverse grip is all about. Okay, first we got to review how to hold the knife in a reverse grip. Again, you're going to grab the knife with your knuckles, not with the hand, because you want to align the blade with those knuckles. So I'm right here. As soon as I got that, I'm going to close my hand, and my thumb will go right over my other fingers. Do not put your thumb here. You're going to smother the butt end of the knife, which you're going to need later on anyway. I'm going to be right here. My hands stay loose, and I keep a 90-degree angle. In other words, if I'm getting in my fighting stance, that knife stays in a 90-degree angle. That is called the gate of the reverse grip. I want to keep my gate open. If I put the knife like so, some people like to hold it like that just for the style of it, you're closing the gate. Therefore, you took away the whole purpose of why you're fighting in reverse grip. Might as well hold the knife this way. All right, so I'm keeping my gate open. Now we're going to have to go over the same principles as we did with the regular grip. You're going to have to be able to apply all your pyramid techniques with the reverse grip, starting out with the slashes. So I got slash up, slash down, slash up, horizontal across, slice up, slice down. So all those lines apply on that pyramid like you did before with a regular grip. Same thing applies here with the size of that pyramid. In the beginning, nice and big. So your body records the muscle memory, and if the motion is big, usually your body will remember. You get a little bit better at it, you tighten it up. You get better at it again, you tighten it up to the size of the target that you're going to want to cut. So first thing is the slashes. Second, you're going to have to stab. Again, every time I stab inward the pyramid. If I take this corner, I'm going to stab this way. So the knife goes inward the pyramid. If I take this corner, I'm going to stab this way. I'm not going to stab this way, they'll end up slashing out. So every time I stab, I'm going to stab inward. Again, I make it big first, and then I start tightening up. Every time you stab, it's like a poke, like you're ice poking ice, a poke. Don't try to stick the knife into him because it's going to take a long time to stick it out. Just make a hole. Make a hole. That's why you go into the throat. It doesn't take much power to enter a throat with a knife. All right. Finally, you will get the combinations. You got slash and stab. Again, whatever slash you take, you reverse. Slash, reverse into a stab. 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 And finally, you got stab, slash. Stab, slash. Stab, slash. Remember here, you're going to have to turn the blade, so you don't end up raking them. It's important that every time you slash, you're using the blade. You're using the blade. Okay, now that we practice the slashes and the stabs and the combination, now you got to realize, why do I choose to go from regular grip into reverse grip? That is a tactical assessment and tactical decision that you're going to make. You're not going to just go to reverse grip just because I'm going to fight reverse grip this time. When you fight reverse grip with the knife, you are fighting into what I call the fox style. You want to hook him in. Okay, you're going to need to learn how to hook with your knife. Every time he's going to come in, you're going to basically hook him in, trap him, and basically starting to go to work. So it's different than the other style, which is regular grip, where the distance will make a difference on the engagement. When you're in reverse grip, you're going to wait for him to come in and invite him. Now, this will require that you build good skills, because you actually letting him get engaged you. Okay? In some way, psychology-wise, you have the advantage, even though it doesn't look like so, because you are baiting him in. You know he's going to come in. When you're in regular grip, it's kind of like you're finding who's going to engage first. Here, you have half of the stress gone, in the sense of, I know I'm not engaging, so I'm just going to wait. So even though he's engaging first, you will have the timing advantage. Okay, in the segment of the regular grip, when Justin was coming in with a straight angle one, the block was created this so. Okay, the difference between blocking and hooking will be that if Justin comes again, I'm going to hook instead of block. Okay, the reason for that, if I'm in reverse grip and I block, most of the time that will create a disconnection, and I never got a chance to pull him in. All right, so hooking will be hooking him in. This is the reason why in Israeli tactical knife fighting, we don't use double-edged blades. Okay, we use singular blade, because if I had a double-edged blade, when I'm hooking, I'm going to end up cutting him, and he's going to disconnect just out of being cut. If I have a singular blade, then what happens when I hook him, I can trap him in without him pulling out because he's getting cut. So that's the main reason why in Israeli tactical knife fighting, we don't use a double blade as our leading knife. Now you're going to see later on, as we use both knives, two knives, the rear knife will be a dagger, and that knife will be double-edged because there's no issues of trapping or hooking or bringing him in with a knife. That knife would be simply used as a piston. So the leading knife is never double-edged. If it's a rear knife, that's going to be a double-edged knife. That's why in the military units, the leading knife is always hooked here, like the paratroopers or the special forces, and the secondary knife is a boot knife. And the boot knife is always double-edged. If you get a boot knife, you're going to see it's double-edged. That's why, because leading knife, single edge. Boot knife, secondary knife, always a dagger. Justin comes in with an angle 1 attack right here. Again, I do not know if he's coming in with a slash or maybe he's coming with a stab. I am going to deal with it as the line traveling in. Just like I did with the regular grip, I'm going to do with a reverse grip. I'm going to cut the angle to 2 o'clock as a precaution of getting out of the line of traveling of the knife. My other hand is going to go by the neck to protect my throat. In the process, I'm going to block. Now this is for training purposes. I am building you up to be able to hook directly without blocking, but you're not going to need this point of reference as a learning tool. As soon as I got a block here, I'm going to hook it. Now when I hook, I'm coming in with a 90 degree. This is when I said earlier, if you have a reverse grip and it's like this, as you would have blocked, it would have slid in. Or you would never get a chance to hook because you close the gate. You always keep it 90 degree so the gate is open for the hook. Again, he comes in, block, and hook. Now when I hook, what I'm going to do is I am going to circle up until my elbow is higher than my shoulder. If your elbow is lower than your shoulder, you're going to direct him to your neck and he's going to kill you. In other words, every time you hook, that elbow has to be higher than your shoulder. I call this the Quasimodo technique because look like Quasimodo. In other words, if you don't feel like Quasimodo for 1 second, you got it wrong. Again, it's here and up. So that elbow is higher than the shoulder so he cannot cut you in your throat. One more time, he comes in, 1 and right here. From here, I have a trap. 1 slash stab. Out I go, just like the same way I did with a regular grip. Again, he comes in, 1, hook. From here, I go to the elbow. Go to the elbow. As I check here, now I can go down here. Do not go down here without getting the elbow. If you didn't get the elbow and you went down here, he's just going to cut your throat open. Okay, so again, he comes in, 1, 2, elbow above shoulder, check his elbow, slash. Stab in the kidney. I'm going to take his mobility on my way out and get away from the knife by cutting the angle, and right there is the end of my engagement. Now, as soon as you have developed the block and you got the footwork done and you got the positioning done, now you're ready to go into straight to hook. It is very important here to realize that what's going to make you survive this is the footwork more than anything else. In the entry and on the way out. Every time you position yourself according to the footwork, you are going to determine if you're going to survive or not survive this engagement, because when you're in reverse grip, essentially you have less length with the knife. Therefore, you're inviting them closer. You're going to have to compensate that by having superb footwork. As it comes in, I'm going to hook straight in. From here, slash, stab, on my way out. Remember, on my way out, I don't want to come here and try to get out here, and now he kills me on the way out. I'm always going to get out of the line of the traveling of the knife when I'm on my way out. Again, I'm here, hooking him, 1, 2, and out we go. Okay, this time Justin comes in with an attack on angle 2. Again, I don't know if it's a slash coming in or I don't know if it's a stab coming in. I will treat it the same way. Again, as he comes in, I'm going to angle up and I'm going to shoot my blade with the block first as a training device. In other words, originally I'm going to hook, but I'm going to get you there first with the block. Again, he comes in, I angle out to 10 o'clock, other hand by the neck just in case, and the block gets established here. Now it's important that you realize earlier on angle 2 we did this, and we came here and this, and we cut out. Okay, yes, you can do the same thing with a reverse grip and come here and this and that, but the problem with that is in many times when you block here, they're going to disconnect anyway. And the style of hooking is to bring them in so you can completely demolish him, not giving them a chance to get out. So that is the reason why we chose the reverse grip, because we want to hook them in. If I wanted to block it, I would have used regular grip. Okay, so again, he comes in. First thing is the block. From here, I'm going to hook and circle out and serve it right here into my trap. Again, he comes in, stop it, hook, serve it right here. From here, slash, stab. Again, you have the option here, slash, stab to the groin, slash, stab to the abdominals. I'm going to pull out, mobility here, and angle out here. Always angling out of the knife traveling line. Again, he comes in, one. From here, serve it right here. Slash, stab, mobility, and out we go. Justin comes in, I'm going straight to hook. Now it is important here that you remember, when you go straight to hook, it is your footwork that gives you that insurance that you're not going to cut. If Justin comes in and I simply hook, I'm going to hook him right into my organs. I'm going to need to cut to 10 o'clock as I hook, so I never got cut. At the end of the hook on this one, I'm going to trap. Again, when I trap him here, don't do it with your thumb. If you go with your thumb, there's two liabilities to that. Number one, your knife is down here and you might nip yourself with your own knife. Number two, as soon as you grab here, if he yanks to any direction, I'm going to be going with it because I grabbed him. Do not grab him, just cup it with your hand. Again, so Justin comes in, one, and right here. From here, slash and stab. I'm going to have to angle out of the knife route. Coming out, take his mobility on the way out on this angle. Again, coming in, one, slash, stab, take his mobility, and out we go. One more time, coming in, one, slash, stab, and coming out, and here we go. This time Justin comes in across with an angle 3. Again, I don't know if he's coming with a slash or I don't know if he's coming with a curved stab. In other words, I'm going to deal with it the same way of the line that's coming in. Again, as he comes in, I'm going to move to 2 o'clock. So I don't stay focused in front of him. If in anything, I make him pass the line of the attack. As I do so, he comes in, I'm going to put my block. Again, this is just for the stage of you learning. I'm putting my block here. My other hand is going to be by my neck. From here, I'm going to hook until I look like Quasimodo again. Elbow above shoulder. Do not, because the attack is lower, come on in, Justin, be lazy and only come here and then he comes across your neck and it's over. It is important that you bring it all the way up for security purposes. Again, he comes in, one. I hook all the way up. As soon as I'm here, I'm going to have to check his elbow, slash, stab in the kidney. Again, I'm going to have to stay away from that knife. I find my way out, closing the door, taking the mobility on this angle. One more time, coming in, one. From here, hooking all the way up, checking the elbow, slash, stabbing in the kidney, and closing the door, angling out away from his knife. All right, Justin comes in with his angle 3, and I choose to hook right away. It is important here again that as I hook, I move. If I don't move and I simply hook, I'm going to get cut. I have to angle out and make sure my elbow is above shoulder. When I have this neutralized, only then I come in with my counter attack and with closing the door. Again, One more. This time Justin comes in with an angle 4, right across. Again, I don't know if he's coming in with a slash or if he's coming in with a curved stab. To me, it doesn't make a difference. I'm going to deal with it as the line of travel of the knife. As he comes in, first thing I'm going to do is angle out. Again, very important here on the reverse grip. You cannot operate without angling up on reverse grip because your hand has less length and you're bringing him in, you're going to have to compensate by the footwork. So as he comes in, I'm going to angle up to 10 o'clock. I'm using the block as a training hazard to go into the hooking. From here, I bring him up into the trap. Remember, do not put your thumb. If you put your thumb, it's too close to your own blade. If you put your thumb anywhere he goes with that hand, pull, right? I'm going to go with it, and that's going to be a liability in the fight. Again, as he comes in, angle out, one here. As soon as I got it here, slash across, stab, pull out, and take his mobility on the way out. Again, came in here, one. From here, hook, slash, stab, angle out, take the mobility, close the door. Justin comes in. Again, he comes in with that angle 4. I'm going to go straight to a hook. On this one again, you need the footwork. If you go to hook without the footwork, you're going to get cut. It's important, I keep repeating it, but it's important for your survival. The footwork on hooking is essential. You don't have it, you're not going to survive the first engagement. You didn't get to survive the first engagement, you never got to finish him up, so it's important. As he comes in, I angle up, straight to hook. I serve it into the trap, slash across, stab, and cut out the angle by closing the door. Again, he comes in, one, schlag, tack, and close the door. One more time. As he comes in, one, and close the door. This time Justin is going to come in with a straight stab. He's just rushing in with a straight stab. This time I'm going to hook him in and I'm going to use a howling of my bodies, and I do so. As he comes in, I'm going to do this. Again, as he comes in, I'm doing this. Okay? My body, I'm not going to shuffle back or take a step back. If I do so, come on in, I ain't got nothing. I didn't get to hook him. In other words, hooking is inviting him in. I'm going to invite him in by howling my body and make him believe that he's going to get what he's going to get. Again, I'm here, and all I'm doing is this. Now, if you look at my footwork, originally my heel is up. And as I go back, I replace that so I can create this space right here. Again, right here. Now, one of the big reasons why it is better for me to do this versus going backward. Number one, going backward, I won't hook him. And number two, maybe I'm not aware of what's behind me. And I try to back up, and there's a wall behind me, and he gets his stab because the wall stopped me. So again, if I'm here, I know I'm occupying this space. I'm going to keep occupying that space, but I'm going to change my posture so I can hook him in. Again, he comes in, and I hook him in. Here, there is no block. It's going to be, go slow motion, please. It's going to go straight into a hook. Now again, at the end of my hook, my elbow is going to be above my shoulder. From here, I'm going to piston straight out, control the elbow, slash, stab, and I'm going to find myself out on this angle, closing the door. Again, coming in, one, elbow above shoulder, piston in, slash in the process, stab, close the door, take his mobility out. Justin now comes in with a shot from below. In other words, he comes in just coming from below. On this one, I am going to use a block no matter what. Even if I'm going to continue with the hook, I'm going to start with the block because the motion is just too strong and it's going to be too much of taking a chance to try to hook right away. So here, first thing, I'm going to block. As soon as I got the block, I'm going to hook this way. Not disconnecting, because you can afford to disconnect here. It's coming right into your body. I'm blocking here, hooking here. From here, up we go again. Elbow, 1, 2, and out I go. Again, as he comes in, 1. Right here, up I go, almost like a puppet on a string. Again, 1, up, slash, tap, and out we go. Double knives. That brings us to the issue of double knives. Usually in a military setup, the leading knife will be a single blade and the rear knife will be a dagger. There is a reason for that. The leading knife has to have the option to be able to hook if I choose to go in reverse grip, and also so I can threaten my opponent without actually endangering him. A lot of times, instead of me using the blade, I'll use the door pod. He doesn't know that, and he's intimidated, and I'll get the information out of him real fast. In other words, the knife up front has to be a single blade. Rear knife is a dagger. Now I'm going to pick you up from what I left you the last segment with a reverse grip. Carlos is going to come in with an understab. I'm right here. Again, I'm right here to begin with. From here, I'm coming up. Now, instead of me trapping and coming in with this knife, I got a dagger that's working like a piston. Every technique, if he comes in with an angle 1 and I came here, this is going to come in as a piston. My rear knife is used as a piston. So really, double knife is the same thing as single knife, reverse grip, just your rear hand is always working as a piston. Again, so he comes in, I'm coming 1, in, and right here, all right? So anytime you have double knife, you can piston down. Now, military setup, sometimes he attacks. He's got a knife, and I got a knife, and I know I cannot take his life. I need the information out of him. In other words, automatically, if I have 2 knives or whatever, I am going to come into reverse grip because I'm going to have to hook him in. As I hook him in, if he comes in under stab, right now, instead of dagging in, I can go in behind and here. Now, he knows I got 2 knives. This will be an intimidation factor to begin with. Now, the dagger on this scenario will be used as a disarm. In other words, when I come here, as I come up here, I'm going to basically piston into the hand of the knife. In other words, I'm come 1 and come right here. See the disarm? And now I can come in. And I chose not to take his life. So double knife can be used as a piston on the hand that's holding the knife from the hooking, or it can be to take him out with the dagger motion. That brings us to the issue of multiple attackers. If you're in a street fight and multiple attacks you, you'd definitely be better off if you have a knife. Now, usually when multiple attacker jumps in, they're going to be armed, because what happens with multiple attackers, they're coming into the fight as a delay. Usually it starts off with 1 and somebody comes to help them, and usually they'll grab an object and it comes more and more. Therefore, if anything, you having a knife in a street fight and multiple attackers is definitely going to be to your advantage. Anytime you attack by 2 persons or more, you're going to want to stay away from the center. If I essentially stay here, I cannot fight both of them because I'm fighting 8 limbs at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I only have 4 limbs. In other words, I'm going to want to open a triangle. The triangle works as the opening of the engagement, so I can assess where I want to go from there. Here, I'll simply be backing up and open a triangle. Right now, I'm going to have to choose which one I'm going to deal with first. And that will be done according to tactical decisions. Just for an example, if I'm in the street now and Carlos is much bigger than Justin, I'd rather deal with Carlos first for two reasons. Number one, if I have to use him as a shield, he's a bigger shield. Also, intimidation-wise, usually when you take the big guy out, small guy starts thinking twice, well, he took the big guy out, I'm going to go really after this. So I will make a decision. Sometimes the decision will be done by maybe I got an exit of this room on this side, therefore I'm better off dealing with him first. So that will be according to the tactical decision that you'll take at that time. As soon as you open the triangle, one of them will rush in, or maybe both of them. You're going to have a stopping power. That usually will be done with stopping kicks, in other words, side kicks and stopping them. As soon as the motions start working, you're going to need to align them. In other words, I'm going to start rotating them that I put them in one line. Therefore, essentially, I am dealing with one at a time, and he's getting frustrated, he's in the way. All right, so I'm basically using him as a shield from this one. Now this will work if there's two attackers. If there's more than two attackers, you're going to have to start working with that knife and just keep cutting the angles. So again, anytime you have a multiple attack situation, knife, no knife, yes knife, sticks, you don't know what they're deploying because they're coming from different angles. First thing, don't stay in the middle. Always find your way out of the triangle. Either that direction or that direction, doesn't really matter. Here, for the sake of illustrating, I'm just going to back up. As soon as I got the triangle done, I'm going to choose where I'm dealing for. Before this one or this one. And then I'm going to start rotating them by aligning them. Now it is important right now that you have a vision on him as an engagement, and a vision on that one. You need to keep him up in your sight. In other words, you can start fixating yourself here and work a lot. Here, it's going to be slashes. In other words, I'm going to start slashing him and move again. I don't go into a full engagement because as I cut the angle here, maybe he's going to come in and I can't deal with two persons at the same time, at least not on an engagement level. So again, open the triangle, rotate the person you chose to fight with first. So you, number one, keep him on the half beats with the footwork. In other words, he's always going to be a half beat behind you. And number two, you align the other person to get either frustrated or he just doesn't have access in the process. As you can see, a knife fight is very dynamic. You are going to have to master the skills of the basics, the footwork, the pyramid, the counters, the strategies. You're going to have to spar. You're going to have to drill yourself that it becomes a second nature, so your knife fighting skills are instinctive. If you fight an experienced knife fighter and you are not prepared for it, he's going to slice and dice you. You will have no chance in survival. So the only way you're going to survive that is that you bring yourself to a higher level of skill that the other person has. And that will be done by mastering the basics. It's important that you practice your basics, your footwork, the slices, everything. Then, only then, you can go into more advanced material. We have a series that's coming up that's a counter-terrorist series. There we will address more advanced technique and different applications, such as when do I take the armpit and why do I take the armpit? When do I take the collarbone and stab the collarbone? Those are different applications, and those will be covered in the counter-terrorist series. However, you have no business going there before you master the ABCs of the Israeli tactical knife fighting, because that's going to be your foundation. Now we're going to do the reload with a numeric stress. In other words, Chris is going to yell at number 1 or number 2. I'm going to unload my first magazine on the first plate according to the number that Chris is going to yell. And then I'm going to reload and get the other plate with the same number. In other words, I am going into the scenario not knowing which number, and I'm going into a tactical reload. Here we go.
Ready? 1!
All right, again, 3 in 1, 3 in 1.